This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Welcome to the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib. The New York Yankees ace is going for an MRI that the team is calling precautionary, or rather they're leaking to Andy Martino that it's precautionary, but they're not calling it that. They're making it sound pretty bad. Plus, their starting center fielder is mid-spring beat up, so he get to miss 3 days of action, be back on Wednesday. Is that a term that anyone has ever said before? If I say, oh, he's mid-spring beat up, are you like, oh, I know what level of injury that is, or is there more concern for you hearing that mysterious nonsense term? Because that's kind of how I reacted to it, because I've never heard anyone say that before, don't know what it means. We had a podcast outline. We were going to do like, oh, are you concerned about this thing? What about the players shining at spring training? Will Warren and Austin Wells and Clayton Beeter are doing their things right now, and we got to blow it all up. We can't even analyze the New York Yankees rationally with a clear head, with eyes fixated straight forward, because they blew up their pitching depth for this season for a rotation with Gerrit Cole and 4 question marks, and Gerrit Cole is now the biggest or second biggest question mark. Because honestly, if he gets Tommy John surgery, I'm still not sure if he is a bigger question mark than Carlos Rodon. That's where we're at right now. Thomas Carannante, welcome to the show. You have an offer for the folks, and then we'll just get into it. Because again, we had an outline, just rip it all up. We got to talk about the wide-ranging implications here, whether Cole is okay or not, what okay even means. In a relative sense. Obviously, he's not going to be there on opening day, I would say. We're fairly confident at this point in time. And if he can only give you like 60 pitches on opening day, do you even want him for that game? I guess you would, but that would be the best case scenario. The worst case is far darker. So why don't we just ask our listeners if they would like to download a gambling app?
Yeah. DraftKings, everybody. Get your bets in. Make sure when you sign up for DraftKings, you get your first bet on them. That's what we're offering here. New customers will get a second chance bet, also a risk-free bet, up to $1,000 when signing up with our promo code YanksGoYard. Name of the site, name of the podcast, very easy to relay. That means if your first bet loses, you will get your full wager returned as a bonus bet up to $1,000. Got to do it. Simply got to do it. Signing up with our code YanksGoYard not only covers your first bet, but will also get you access to daily rewards and other profit boosts on the DraftKings app and sportsbook. So if you're looking to join DraftKings, go download the app, register with that promo code YanksGoYard, and make sure that first bet is covered. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 and older and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly. Check the episode description for full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. Great for DraftKings. Thanks for stopping by. But we have New York Yankees to talk about. Bad. This is why every year we do more complaining than expressing excitement, because how can you get truly excited when you know these injury issues are coming? They're always coming, and they always come in the most unexpected ways. We thought that the beginning of this occurring with Jose Trevino, Scott Efros, Tommy Kahnle, and Oswaldo Perza was kind of enough, right? It was like, oh, great. That's like a good portion of the bullpen and, an important bench piece that we thought would be contributing for most of the year, especially if DJ LeMahieu wasn't able to get back to form, needed that backup third base filled. But now we get hit with the mother of all injury updates, and Gerrit Cole leaving yesterday's game against the Braves early. I don't know what that injury update is. That is a fake injury update. You've never heard of that from another team in the history of injury updates. Nobody is spring banged up. Is that what the term was? Spring banged up?
Mid-spring banged up. I mean, we were the number of things we were ready to talk about. We're going to rail about Oswaldo Perza and overvaluing assets and devaluing them while they're still here and letting prospects cascade into injury uselessness. And Nestor Cortez's start on Saturday, remember when that was the most, objectionable, worrisome moment of the weekend? Yeah, Aaron Judge yesterday. I mean, just a world-class. You wonder why Yankee fans are always, with their antenna tuned up to the potential for something being more than it appears to be. Judge leaves yesterday's game after 2 at-bats. Everybody else gets 3. Is he injured? Is he banged up? Aaron Boone says, no, this was always the plan. Judge says, I told him I was good with 2. What does that mean? Did he ask if you were good with 2 and you said you were? Or did you guys agree before the game? Because if you had agreed before the game to only get Aaron Judge 2 at-bats, it would sort of be common courtesy in a game that does not matter, worth shit, to tell the fans via a beat writer, by the way, Aaron Judge is only going to get 2 at-bats today. It's a pre-planned thing because there's no competitive advantage. The game doesn't matter. So just tell me, right? Just tell me before the game, hey, Aaron Judge is going to get 2 at-bats today. He's doing a lot of work on the side field, whatever. It's pre-planned. And he played the field after his second at-bat. He didn't get yanked immediately. There was a reason to be like, he's probably fine. And there were also reasons to be cautious because you can never be too cautious with this team. So again, if it's agreed upon, just tell us before the game, and nobody will tweet about how it's worrisome, and the replies won't be spammed with Judge hurt, Judge MRI, Judge injured, because the only reason that happened is because you didn't tell us that was the plan. Lo and behold, today, all of a sudden, Judge is not in the lineup. He's the only regular not playing either of these split squad games in Clearwater against Philly, at Tampa against the Orioles. At the home.
He's out till Wednesday, right?
He's out till Wednesday, but he's the only regular not in either of these lineups. Trevino is also not playing, but he is coming off an injury that we all know about, and then Austin Wells is playing. So 8 of the 9 presumed regulars, depending on the catcher rotation, are playing, and Judge isn't. Judge is in the BP group, though. So Jack Curry tweets, he's in the batting practice group. Don't worry.
Sure.
Okay, I'm still a little bit worried. And again, if he was just fine, you could have told me that pre-Sunday's game before you yanked him early. Then turns out not going to participate in the BP group at all. Aaron Boone says he's down till Wednesday with the aforementioned mid-spring bang up or whatever, which is good news because spring baseball is about the least strenuous baseball possible. He's going to be playing center field full-time this year, and he's banged up from on-field and off-field work during a period of time meant to just ramp players up from the offseason to the regular season. So if that took enough of a toll on him that he's got to take 3.5 days off on March 11th, doesn't bode well for him, his ability to hold up through the regular season. Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, legendary duo, an incredible back-to-back in the order. Would love to see it once in a game that counts. And this doesn't even get to touch on the most concerning news of the day, because Aaron Judge will be back. His toe needs constant maintenance all year. We know that. I'm angry about that already. I can't believe that he didn't get surgery last year, and I'm sure he was advised against getting surgery. But again, if you're going to have to monitor this toe for the whole year, and his core is sore already, which has nothing to do with the toe. It's like there's a concerning injury there, and then another thing happened, so I can't possibly feel good about him. Gerrit Cole in there for an MRI that Andy Martino is saying the team believes is precautionary. That's great. But again, the team didn't say that. And we've been told all about recovery time. But here's John Heyman 6 minutes ago during this podcast. Cole's velocity and command have been fine, but recovery hasn't been as good as usual for March. And he felt a twinge discomfort, they're calling it, in a start. Thus the MRI. A twinge and discomfort is why injured pitchers get MRIs. That is not precautionary. Why did you leak that it was? Why did you leak that it was? Recovery time is concerning enough. Because sometimes when your arm doesn't bounce back and it, quote, feels like you threw 100 pitches when you only threw 50, that does mean there's something structurally wrong. But it's less likely there's something structurally wrong if the pitcher didn't feel a twinge or elbow discomfort, which he felt. So why are we pretending it's precautionary? He is going to get an MRI on an injured elbow, full stop. And we'll see how injured it is later this week.
And I don't know if you guys have noticed over the last 10 years or so, but the Yankees don't send anybody for precautionary MRIs or testing. Because if that was the case, Anthony Rizzo would not have been in the situation he was in last year. DJ LeMahieu would not have been in the situation he was in. And what was that, 2022 or both of those seasons, actually. DJ LeMahieu's toe in 2022, his sports hernia in 2021. Giancarlo Stanton, everything with Giancarlo Stanton ever, every injury issue with Luis Severino ever before he left. So, I mean, I could keep, I don't want to keep naming players who have underwent a ton of injury issues without the precautionary testing, but the Yankees are going to now all of a sudden start dishing out precautionary MRIs, CT scans, x-rays when they never do that. And they're going to do it with their arguably their most important player. I would say that Gerrit Cole is probably the most important player heading into this year, solely because the offense has enough power right now to get by with, in theory, Aaron Judge for maybe a month. I know Giancarlo Stanton has largely been irrelevant, but like, say Stanton started the season off hot and had a great 2 months and then had to go down for June, wouldn't really be an issue. Now you have the starting rotation, which was already a question mark. Like you said, depth completely depleted in that Juan Soto trade, and Cole was the number one constant. All anybody talks about is his durability, why he's worth that $324 million throughout the life of the contract. The $36 million per year is because he is never injured, is because he's always making 32 starts, is because he usually is good for 200 innings a season. And now it could all finally be coming to a head. We've worried about this for a while, and not any reason other. It's not pessimism. It's just the reality of what pitchers go through. Very few pitchers last their entire careers without dealing with elbow issues, without having to undergo Tommy John surgery. And you're sitting there simply wondering when it's going to happen with Gerrit Cole. Yoshinobu Yamamoto has Tommy John clauses in his contract with the Dodgers because teams and agencies, they know that this is somewhat an inevitability. And Gerrit Cole's not getting any younger. He has a lot of mileage on his arm. So I don't know why they would send him for a precautionary MRI, especially if that's not how they phrased it upon the release of the news. But then again, Adam, we will say that the Yankees never get the news right when giving it to the media first. So maybe it was precautionary, and then they had to backtrack and tell Martino that it was. But now you're right, the Heyman stuff does paint a little bit of a different picture. And if there was any discomfort, that means there very well could be an injury. And we just saw Lucas Giolito go down with a partially torn UCL and flexor tendon strain. That was a discomfort after a start where he didn't feel like he was himself. And if Gerrit Cole's feeling similar effects early on in the spring, then it's hard to not be all doomsday right now.
Yeah, I don't know how anybody's not doomsday right now. Like you said, Cole is the most important player on this team. And there's always somebody in your mentions to say the opposite of what is valid and necessary at all times, regardless of what the viewpoint is. There's always somebody online who has the worst opinion for the situation. And I actually had somebody in my mentions today just being like, oh, so the season's over then, I guess we could just give up. The Diamondbacks made the World Series last year. And it's like, yeah, with a better rotation than this group of losers. Like, what are you talking about? The Diamondbacks rotation was their strength. The Yankees rotation is a D+ without Gerrit Cole. Like, you can sit, I guess we shouldn't even watch the season. No, I'm going to watch the season, but their chances of success are diminished by 55 to 70% without Gerrit Cole.
Yep.
I'm going to watch. Like that's not, no one is saying that. That's like when you get into an argument and somebody just posits this all the way to the other side argument that they think rebuts or refutes what you're talking about. And you're like, no, that's a different thing. I'm obviously going to watch. I'm going to watch all 162 games. I do a podcast about this team. We write about this team. They're just not as good without Gerrit Cole or really even close to it. So if he goes down, yes, their chances for success are diminished greatly. Sorry. It is.
Forget about playoff. You're done in a playoff series if you're
playing a playoff series. Even if Carlos Rodon throws 160 great innings this year, you are done in a playoff series because he's your number 2. I mean, he's actually a number 4 at this juncture, but he's supposed to be your number 2, and that's why completely irreplaceable. And that's why we can talk about this. I don't want to splurge on Blake Snell or try to convince Jordan Montgomery that he wants to play here because I understand the need.
What if Cole needs Tommy John though?
If Cole needs Tommy John, which I'm sure that
you just sign both of them?
I guess you'd have to sign both of them because signing one of them doesn't do it for me. Blake Snell is a 5-inning ace.
Sign both of them? I mean, that would be badass, but they would set the record for payroll everything, and I don't think that's something Hal Steinbrenner is going to want to do. And you're paying double the tax this year. There's no way to kind of mitigate the risk at all. But look, if Cole undergoes Tommy John surgery, he's out for 2 years. It's out for 2 years. He's out for this year, and then next year he'll be back in August, and it will be a couple of major league rehab starts, and then you'll see him in 2026. So at that point, if you want to make an impression on Juan Soto, I don't know. I really don't know. It could be a blessing that these guys have lasted in free agency as long as they have. With this news coming, but it's hard to see the Yankees doing one both seems out of the question. Both would have to be a necessity in terms of the Yankees actually competing for a World Series, and one would have to be the bare minimum. And maybe there's insurance on Gerrit Cole's contract. I don't know what the deal is. So, maybe the Yankees get some money back in the event that he does have to undergo the surgery, and that would help them pay for a double whammy of a salary payment for one of either Monty or Snell because of the tax. But we got to wait for the news. I mean, hopefully some more updates happen during the podcast because I hate leaving people on a cliffhanger when we end here. But yeah, couldn't have been hit with a worse update today, especially after the Judge stuff. And again, like I'm not trusting any injury update from this team. We can go, but we could talk about Oswaldo Perza too. Like, I don't know how this keeps happening. I don't know how the Yankees keep wasting these players. I don't know how they continue to express any sort of confidence in their training staff, but day by day, it's more and more baffling. And this is why like, I don't want to get excited for any particular year. I just want the year to unfold. And I don't like the renewed hopes are nice, heading into a new year, it feels like a clean slate, but is it a clean slate? The Yankees largely have the same roster, which we've talked about ad nauseum. They've added a few pieces, but like nothing has really changed. Nothing has really changed in terms of the injuries, in terms of Aaron Boone's messaging, in terms of how the organization handles their business. So we're back to square one at this point, for me, at least.
Agreed. The couple of things that I do think we need to caution is I'm seeing the comments of Cole against Tommy John. We're done. He's on the older side of things. I hope they have insurance on him. They're not going to void Cole's contract. He's going to be here for the duration of the contract. This might change the opt-out situation. And I'm sure some genius on Twitter is going to be like, perhaps he won't opt out now. This might actually be a good thing for him to miss a year and a half with Tommy John surgery. Because that's the level of fandom that we have right now, where everyone's always looking to calculate. It's actually a steal. Like, every player should be paid 13% below league average. Like, everyone's always trying to calculate some sort of minor financial windfall on bright side. Give me a break. It's obviously terrible if Gerrit Cole has Tommy John surgery. But pitchers do recover from Tommy John. It'll take this year off the table for the Yankees, and probably next year too. It'll make them that much worse. But I'd still want Gerrit Cole recovered from TJ at 35, 36, 37, 38. Still going to be a very good pitcher. Like, I have no interest in voiding that contract, and I don't think his career is over. Justin Verlander just had Tommy John surgery, came back, looked pretty much the same. Looked like a 40-year-old Justin Verlander would look. So I would say the 34, 35-year-old Gerrit Cole would still look a lot like 33-year-old Gerrit Cole. He just would be post the elbow surgery. The problem with this discussion is I'm all for, here's how you usually cover news. You're like, hey, here's the news. It's bad. Here are the ways that the team can recover. Let's have a debate and a conversation about different avenues that they can take in order to get back to a status quo. There is no getting back to a status quo here.
No.
Gerrit Cole is better than any alternative. This is like the 2022 trade deadline all over again, when we were like, bring in a pitcher. Great, we're bringing in Frankie Montas, but we got rid of Jordan Montgomery. So what did that do? Slightly higher ceiling for Montas, I guess, but you're elevating your rotation, what, a quarter of a win, a half a win, ditching Jordan Montgomery when you ditch him? And then Montas, the Cincinnati Reds opening day starter, is obviously dog shit down the stretch, and it changes the calculus even more. But you get one pitcher in, you give up assets to get him, and you trade away another one for a center fielder. What are you doing at that point in time? You're getting marginally better, but you're not supplementing the rotation. You're just trading one arm out for another one. So if the Yankees lose Gerrit Cole and get Blake Snell, or lose Gerrit Cole and get Jordan Montgomery, unless they bring both in, they're not getting better. They're going to be worse no matter what. I didn't even think Blake Snell was enough of an improvement with Cole, Rodon, Stroman to justify the expenditure. Now without Cole, are you kidding me? $170 million on a 5-and-fly ace who didn't hold up well in 2021, 22, and 2020 either. He was great in the post. That was a half season. Who even knows what that was? But between 19 and 23, he wasn't very good most of the time. You're paying $170, $180 million, or even $100 million in the short term for that guy without Gerrit Cole in the rotation, because that's your number two. That's your change of pace. That is not your ace if you're the New York Yankees with championship aspirations. That's your ace if you're the San Diego Padres last year and you're one of the most disappointing, bloated teams in modern MLB history. There's really no way to examine this Yankees team. Give Will Warren a chance. Give Clayton Beeter a chance. Great. I'd love to. They have to. It still makes them worse. They can reasonably eat innings. I'm not worried about them not being able to cover innings. When you get right down to it, they are worse in the regular season without Gerrit Cole. They are lost in October without Gerrit Cole. And why even watch the 162 games if you know that the end will be a thud? And even if they make a miraculous World Series run without Gerrit Cole, they won't. But even if they do, won't you be a little bit bummed that Gerrit Cole won't be a part of it? And then he'll come back and they'll have to do it again in order to make this whole vision of the Yankee fan today, tomorrow, forever, whole. Like, you're going to get to the end of the season and you're going to be obviously thrilled they won the World Series, but a little piece of you is going to be eating at you for Gerrit Cole. It's not even, there's no point in even talking about that. They're not going to win the World Series, so who cares? But even if they did, there would be a cold little deathly black blanket over you a little bit to be like, oh, but we brought Gerrit Cole here to, and then they somehow managed to win one the only year he doesn't play. I guess they got to do it again for him, and they won't. So there's a dark side in everything. There's literally a dark side to a championship without Gerrit Cole. So think of how dark it'll be when they're trying to scrap together without him and they're 500 in mid-July.
Well, the contract situation pisses me off because, like, I don't know what's going to happen. He's obviously going to opt out after this year, regardless of if he's injured or not, right? So then do the Yankees view that as, oh, wow, we have an out to get out of this money now because I'm not Hal Steinbrenner? It might sit there. I don't know. I don't know what the thought process is, but if you have to sit on it and think, you're like, okay, why am I going to give another year and $36 million to a guy who didn't pitch this year and I paid him $36 million and probably is not going to pitch next year and I'm paying him $36 million and now I'm just paying for an extra year of potentially damaged goods? Or they opt into it and they do pay for damaged goods. So it's like either way, you're at a loss. Like whatever happens. Like if he leaves, okay, great. Like the Yankees might have avoided potential disaster depending on what his recovery is like, because you don't know what the success rate here, largely good, especially for veteran pitchers with track records, but you just never know. And it's a big risk, and it's especially a big risk for somebody with, how many years would he have left at that point? He can opt out after year 5, it was. So he's got 4 years. He would have another 5 years left.
Yeah.
So that's also what makes me angry about this. The timing of the injury, of course, comes during the 1 year of Juan Soto. Of course, comes in the opt-out year for Cole's contract. But yeah, fuck it. What do you want me to say? It's the same shit. Same shit all the time.
That's the problem. It's the same shit all the time.
What do you want me to say?
You knew you were going to lose him at some point. I mean, no pitcher is that durable in the modern era. It just doesn't happen. I mean, pitchers who were this durable in the 50s and 60s were lying. Like they hadn't invented Tommy John surgery. Like people got injured and just left baseball, or people pitched with bulky elbows for like 4 years. So I guess we do need to mention the clarity of the Cole opt-out just because it is confusing. It's not a real opt-out. It just makes the Yankees, it puts the ball in the Yankees' court. It gives them an opportunity. It forces a decision. If Cole opts out, from the Yankees' perspective, there is no new contract. All they have to do is say, we will give you 1 year of this current contract at the same price, and we'll tack it on to the end. So all they're doing is lengthening it from 4 years left to 5 years left at the same price. They can put a stop to this. It's not a true opt-out. The ball is in Hal Steinbrenner's court. That said, there is always the chance, and people were not entertaining this earlier in the offseason. They were telling us it's not an opt-out, not a real opt-out. And you really think the Yankees be stupid enough to let Gerrit Cole opt out? I don't know. I'm not in the room. I've certainly seen them let Aaron Judge get to the beyond the flirtation stage with San Francisco and San Diego. I've watched them let plenty of players test free agency. You know, it's not like they're great at getting ahead of these. They got ahead of it with Aaron Hicks and Luis Severino, right? They're not the best at getting ahead of these things. So the ball's in their court. Cole can either seek, a higher AAV if he wants out on the open market, only if the Yankees decline to add that extra year. They can invalidate this if they want. But like you said, now they have to be thinking potentially about what does Cole look like coming back from Tommy John surgery. Probably great, but you never know. Do we really want to give him his age 39 season in pinstripes now that we know he's having this later career surgery? Does it make him a more secure bet? Because, he's probably, maybe not, but probably not going to have surgery again down the line before the end of the contract. So do you view it that way, saying, all right, well, I mean, there's the TJ. It's unlikely he's going to get 2. His elbow's been structurally sound his whole career. You never know. You might as well give him that extra payday. Or does this give the Yankees the inexplicable chance to backtrack on Cole's deal and say, we don't want to pay for his old age, so we're not going to pay for his middle age either. We got Juan Soto to take care of, and we're going to run with Will Warren and Clayton Beeter and Nestor and Marcus Stroman and Carlos Rodon because we have to, and then maybe next year we throw money at Corbin Burns and his 12.71 ERA in spring training instead, or Shane Bieber or Max Fried. It just gives they're going to be paying money, presumably. It just gives them a chance to pivot away from someone who has been the ace / de facto pitching coach / only durable modern ace in the game of baseball. They could inexplicably just decide, 39-year-old Cole, though, I don't know. I'd rather invest our money differently. And then have to have another bite at the apple and do it all worse from the beginning. Because right now, Cole and Soto and most of the time, Aaron Judge are the only good things about this entire team.
Yeah. Again, don't know what you want me to say. Don't know what any of you want me to say. It's complete and utter BS. And before all of this happened, we had another injury over the weekend, which couldn't have been less surprising. Oswaldo Perza. You saw him make those two pretty egregious errors early on in spring training. He was 0 for 7 in his 7 spring at-bats with 4 strikeouts. So you knew something was up, or he was just spectacularly failing, which wouldn't have been anything surprising based on how things have transpired for Yankees depth and Yankees prospects at that point. But now he has a shoulder strain, MRI revealed, shut down for upwards of 2 months, which means you do nothing for 2 months. Then you start baseball activities again. Then maybe you're ready enough to go on a rehab assignment. Then you probably he's going to have to do multiple levels of a rehab assignment because he's not a terribly experienced major leaguer. And another lesson that the Yankees will not learn. So first of all, this hurts the Yankees' depth, but I'm wondering we were both wondering, I should say, if Oswaldo Perza was ever really in consideration for the opening day roster, because the Yankees offered Amed Rosario money, they offered Kike Hernandez money, and they got turned down by both. But what would that mean? That would mean the Yankees are looking for an Oswaldo Perza replacement before Oswaldo Perza was even injured. So now that he's injured, you're sitting there and you're wondering, oh, so like now his career is over. Like his Yankees career is chalk it up to not ever existing, because he's out for 2 months. He shut down. Let's say he's shut down until the beginning of May. Then he starts baseball activities another week or two. Then he goes on a rehab assignment another week or two. Late May, early June return. But what is he returning as? He's returning as a part-time player, which he did last year for 52 games and batted 191 with a 539 OPS. He needs reps. He is worthless in AAA because he's already maximized his value. He is worthless as a part-time player because he's not getting the exposure that he needs to the big league level to actually prove himself. And the Yankees have once again torpedoed an asset that was once a top 100 prospect after they had knew that they were not going to use him. And I don't want to hear any arguments about this from anybody, because they promoted Perza first in 2022. They brought him up down the stretch to help the team with depth, to give him experience, to maybe have him on the playoff roster. And guess what? He was good. Played great defense. His bat was actually impactful. Then he filled in that 1 or 2 games in the ALCS, played really good defense, was a non-factor on offense, but did what he had to do. That was promising. And then what do they do after that? The plan all along. They knew Anthony Volpe was the shortstop of the future, but they decided to make it a competition between him and Oswaldo Perza, something they knew the competition was going to result in anyway, an Anthony Volpe nod for opening day. So they crushed Perza's confidence by putting him in a competition with somebody who he was already ahead of in the pecking order, then opted not to trade him before even announcing the competition when his value was the highest, again, when they knew Anthony Volpe was going to be the opening day starter for 2023, because, again, that was the plan. That was the plan from reports leading up to Anthony Volpe's promotion. That was the plan since Anthony Volpe was at high A. I don't know if you guys have been following the Yankees that long, or following his Anthony Volpe's path that long, but that was the plan since high A. That's what all the reports were saying. That's what all the scouts were saying. That's what all the publications were saying. It was what it was. And then not only that, they bring Perza up to the opening day roster last year after he loses the competition, after he doesn't have a good spring, and then he's a part-time player with getting the experience that is not requisite for his development. Then he gets injured. Then he has to spend a portion of the year in AAA, so his value is torpedoed already. Then you bring him back this year for spring training. Okay, you're sitting there. Maybe we can replenish his value. Good spring training, trade him. But guess what? Most teams don't trade during spring training because the rosters are already set. So you're putting yourself in a bad position once again, because whatever happens with Oswaldo Perza heading into 2024 does not matter. If he is not an everyday player at the major league level, he is useless. And I don't mean that for him as a player. It's for his development and for his value to increase. His value does not move the needle at all if he is at AAA. His value does not move the needle at all if he's coming off the bench. He cannot produce off the bench in short spurts with a lack of experience. So whatever the Yankees have done here is literally despicable, because they have done this with so many other talents over these years. They maximize none of the prospects they have. They hoard this depth. They know they already have an inclination with who they're going to go with anyway. So the answer is already baked into the equation. And then again, they will trade nothing for nothing. They will trade Oswaldo Perza for a dog shit major league level acquisition to fill the depth in the bullpen or fill the depth on the bench, and it will result in nothing. And then Oswaldo Perza will go somewhere and not live up to his potential because his development was already murdered by whatever the Yankees were doing over the last 2 years. So that's what I have to say on this. I don't know how you don't agree with that after watching what has happened and what they've done with all these players over the years, with prospect pitchers, every trade that the Joey Gallo trade, the Sonny Gray trade, the Frankie Montas trade, all of that is exactly indicative of what's happening now. And now they had one of the strongest probably valued prospects you could have. I think shortstop is a very highly valued position, especially if that player is closer to 5 tools than not. You might argue pitching is more important, but I think at this point the consensus is that prospect pitchers, all of them are a crapshoot, because it doesn't really matter what's happening until you reach AAA. Whereas on the hitter position, position player side of things, there's more that you can tell at that point. So they have ruined a premier trade asset, and they had ample opportunity to cash in on it for a year and a half, and they opted not to. So this is where my problem with the front office comes in. This is where, like, the trade for Juan Soto does not fix anything for me. There's no acquiescing here. They did what they had to do. I know we've said it's still an accomplishment. They traded for Juan Soto. They got a deal done that really minimized risks on their end, but there are still these core problems that we're not getting to the root of. And this is it. Oswaldo Perza's injury is it.
Yeah, I think sometimes fans use the wrong examples when they're trying to talk about the Yankees devaluing players and minimizing the assets that they have. I saw Greg Bird thrown around. I don't think that's a fair one. He was supposed to be their starting first baseman, and he fell apart. His foot fell apart. His shoulder fell apart after 2015. He needed surgery. It didn't work. But there was never a point where I thought to myself after 2015, oh, they should trade Greg Bird. Like, they got to get him out of here while his value is the highest. He filled a clear need for them in the wake of Mark Teixeira's disintegration and a forthcoming retirement. You need that guy on your roster. So that's disappointing. Like, they didn't do anything to devalue that asset. No. That's a player they needed who disappeared. At no point was I like, oh, Greg Bird broke out at a clear position of need. You got to trade him to make the 2015 wildcard team marginally better. Like, I would have been furious if they traded Greg Bird. Then Miguel Andujar too, and Clint Frazier. So they became jokes because of how often they were included in trade packages. But Miguel Andujar in 2018 was the runner-up for Rookie of the Year, 50 doubles as a rookie. Defense, questionable. The bat was there. And so with Giancarlo Stanton, you could have considered trading him after 2018. But you know what? Miguel Andujar tore his shoulder up at the start of 2019. If that doesn't happen, he might be the starting third baseman today. There was no reason to believe that with that bat and with that talent that he was just going to fall off the entirety of the planet. He fell apart. His body broke. And he came back and he wasn't the same. And he's not an outfielder, and they tried him in the outfield and they replaced him with Gio Urshela, who was a better fit. I don't actually think that was mishandled. I think that's another player who broke. Same with Clint Frazier, who ran into the wall with his head twice. Concussive after effects, recovered, then did it again. That is a player who ruined himself. I don't think the Yankees did much to devalue him that he didn't do himself, though the shuttling up and down, clearly there were some personal issues at play. Yeah. And the way that they treated him in 2019 when he was like leading the team, batting and runners in scoring position, was egregious. But after that, his career fell apart because, again, spring training slammed himself into a wall. Now, the players they actively mishandled, it's a lot of pitching prospects because, like you said, they break. So I'm glad that they traded some for Andrew Benintendi and some for Frankie Montas, even though that was a clearly second place option because they could have gotten Luis Castillo and they should have gotten Luis Castillo, and the Reds should have said yes when the Yankees offered them Jason Dominguez. And the comments are obviously they didn't handle Andujar properly once he came back, but his power was gone. He got sapped by that shoulder issue. He never recovered from that. The players they actively mishandled are Chance Adams, wouldn't trade him for Gerrit Cole, and wouldn't trade diminished Clint Frazier in that package either. Justice Sheffield wouldn't trade him for Manny Machado, and then went ahead and traded him for James Paxton. And then,
Florial. How long are you going to hang on to Florial, a top 100 prospect, not using him, not trading him? What is the point? And like there are other ones too. Like I would argue, Domingo Germán. That's early on. I don't know why. Did they need him that badly? Was he that could he not have netted them something else before everything came crashing down? I would argue some major league people too, like Mike Tauchman. I would have cashed in on Mike Tauchman after he had already, gotten to where he needed to get. And then they end up trading Mike Tauchman for nothing. So it's more of the same with how they have handled guys at their peak or handled guys that, gradually you saw that they were becoming expendable based on players who were coming in or other people or how the farm system was shaping up. So yeah, it's gross mishandling in the sense, and then it's nuts because then they get one good year out of Aaron Hicks and they're like 7-year extension. Let's do it. And it's like, where is any of the reasoning? Where is any of the logic? You're not even operating with consistency at this point. And just the evaluation of talent is crazy bad. Like you thought the IKF Josh Donaldson trade was going to work out. And then to the opposite end of the spectrum, they relented on Gary Sanchez because they sat there and they said, we can't not get value for Gary Sanchez. That would be a killer. Really? That would be a killer? After all the value that you've plummeted, all the value that you torpedoed, you can't stomach to just let Gary Sanchez go in his final year of arbitration eligibility to save $10 million. You have to force a trade that's going to have you inherit $50+ million just so you could say, well, we didn't get nothing for Gary Sanchez. And that was the thinking because there was little reason to trade Gio Urshela at that point. He was a fine player. He was a good clubhouse guy. He was the exact kind of bat that the Yankees needed in terms of, contact heavy, aggressive early in counts, which they lacked. And he was a versatile defender. So push came to shove. If he wasn't going to be the everyday third baseman, he could have played short or second. No problem there. So it's crazy how there's a wild juxtaposition with all of these, and I don't understand what they're doing. And to me, Oswald Peraza though is the root of the problem. Like the fact that they haven't learned from how their prospects were valued in other deals, or it's just the stubbornness, right? And this is the big one that we talk about frequently behind closed doors, and we probably mentioned on the podcast too. If the Yankees don't get the value in the like the preliminary negotiations that they think is suitable for their needs and desires, they just shut it down. They just say, nope, great. So you can imagine how many offers were on the table for Peraza that did not satiate their needs. And then they just said, great, we're just going to hang on to him then. And it's almost like an act of spitefulness. It's like, yep, we're going to hang on to him. We're going to try to use him as we can. And he's either going to succeed or we're going to watch him just diminish right in front of our eyes and nobody else is going to be able to have him. So that's where it's insane and frustrating to me. And obviously I don't know that for sure, but again, we've watched enough Yankees baseball to know. We know how trade negotiations go. We see how other teams operate and capitalize on talent. Yes, to a degree, the Yankees are blackballed on the trade market, but also if you know that, you cannot operate every single day thinking that you're going to get the value that you think is appropriate. If you're blackballed, then you have to pick and choose your fights where you're going to be blackballed, and you have to bite the bullet on certain prospects where you're like, okay, we have a surplus here. And we prioritize this guy over this guy. So let's trade this guy. We'll get value. This is who we're targeting, whatever. It's crazy how there is no order of operation there. It's just like act on, however you're feeling that day and then move on.
Yeah, I am bummed.
Who else is here? I'm looking through other rosters because I'm pissed now.
Well, I do feel
we
like
trade for Tyone.
We need to cite now because people are asking, like, oh my God, they really tried to offer Dominguez for Luis Castillo? Yes.
Yeah. Well, reports said that.
Bob Nightingale, USA Today, quote, their top trade target was Cincinnati Reds ace Luis Castillo, and they put Jason Dominguez in their trade proposal, but refused to include prize shortstop prospect Anthony Volpe. The Yankees' loss was the Seattle Mariners' gain. With Castillo now their ace. But I guess we don't know is if they were demanding Volpe and Dominguez, or we just said, we'll give you Dominguez, and they said, no, Volpe. But either way, Jason Dominguez was offered, and the Cincinnati Reds balked at it, instead traded for a guy who's now on an 80-game PED suspension as the centerpiece of that trade. And the Seattle Mariners have Luis Castillo, and we don't. And we don't have anybody really worthwhile behind Gerrit Cole, who we might not have for a year and a half. Worth discussing, though, in the comments now, like after all of that, after that rant, which is completely validated at this juncture, are you trading Spencer Jones for Dylan Cease? Because I still am not. I can't do that. I'm sorry, because and a lot of that has to do with the trade target. Dylan Cease is not an ace.
No, that would be creating more of a problem in my opinion, because that's where the desperation sets in, and you're just like, all right, fuck it, I'll just trade something for something now because I have to, or I'll give in to the trade demands. Like that's the other thing. I am appreciative of the Yankees like looking at another team and being like, what do you like the Reds for Luis Castillo? It's like, no, get out of my face. The White Sox and the Brewers for Corbin Burns and Dylan Cease. It's like, no, absolutely not. But on the other hand, it's like we need to be a middle ground. We can't just be standing pat here and expecting to get what we want when we know we're not going to get what we want. In terms of Cashman trades, what am I looking at here? Are any of these objectionable? Yeah, I mean, the Sheffield trade was bad. What else we have here? Yeah,
Saquon Barkley just signed with the Eagles. If you want that too,
yeah.
Wow.
I
don't know if you want that in your brain. I mean, like that. I don't even have the energy to care about that right now. But there's two.
What was who'd they trade for Justin Wilson that year?
That's a good question. I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Sessa? Oh no, they traded Sessa and Justin Wilson to the Reds. They traded Kevin Alcantara
for nothing. Remember when they traded Wilson, and we were like, oh my gosh, what are they getting back? They're clearing roster spots now, and they're trading two arms who we kind of need. What do they get back? And the answer is absolutely somebody named Jason Parker, a player to be named later. They did that with Adam Warren too. In the middle of a year where they theoretically were hurtling towards the playoffs, they traded Adam Warren for international money.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean the Montas trade is great. Like Waldichuk and Sears were atop their value, and then you trade them for an injured asset and a reliever. The Wesneski trade for Efros, like I know like it's not fair because Efros is injured, but like that's a top 10 pitching prospect. That was a top 100 prospect, I believe, at the time. He was number 7 in the Yankee system, and it might have been fringe top 100 in. In the larger MLB rankings. And that's somebody who is traded one up for a controllable reliever. You can't find a better trade package or usage of a trade for a pitcher who like teams need, especially teams that are desperate for pitching help. You can't find a better deal than that. You wait all this time for Florial to finally wither into nothing, and you get Cody Morris for him. I guess we'll see how that pans out. I don't know what they did with Greg Weissert. Like Greg Weissert was somebody who was like held in decently high regard, and then he just gets dumped for Alex Verdugo and essentially is roster fodder. They, look at the trade for Gallo. Like most of those guys were supposed to be something, and I guess they evaluated them properly, but couldn't have got a better player for those guys who were performing highly in the minors, and then instead you get the worst 140 game stretch in New York Yankees history from an everyday player. So it's just like it's not utilizing the trade value properly. It's being stubborn, and that's just that's what it comes down to for me. And hanging on to depth pieces that you don't need. Like It's no offense to Oswaldo Perza. I'm not insulting his abilities. He just is of no use if the Yankees already have their solutions around them. The bench needs to be filled with experienced veterans who know the ebb and flow of the game, who know what it's like to play every day, and then who know what it's like to play every other day or every 3 days. Oswaldo Perza has no exposure to that. He just knows what it's like to play every day. He's hurtling toward some sort of career aspiration of being an everyday shortstop, second baseman, third baseman, whoever will have him at any point. And now he's relegated to the bench. So, like, what use is that? And who in this organization thinks that's useful? Unless you're sitting there and saying, which I guess I would sympathize with, we don't know who's going to get injured. So we need to make sure we have a good shortstop on the roster. Okay, so then why don't you just sign a solid veteran shortstop? Because at that point, then you're what? Wondering if Anthony Volpe is going to suffer a season-ending injury and you're going to need a young shortstop in there that you want to develop too. It's like you cannot have all of these assets and figure out how to make use of them on a singular roster. So I know we talked about how it could be advantageous for Perza to come up with this group of major leaguers because it's a lot of experienced guys. It's a good mix of young players and players who are coming over to the Yankees for the first time this season. So it's going to alter the energy a little bit. It's going to have a different feel to the season, but like it never made sense in my head why you're going to someone who was he ever ranked higher than Volpe? He might not have been. They might have been neck and neck.
Yeah.
But still, like you have prospects like that who are neck and neck, and you think you're going to utilize both of them, and you're not going to trade Gleyber Torres, and you're going to continue to accommodate a spot for DJ LeMahieu in the infield. I don't understand it. I just don't.
I've been very thrown off by the Saquon Barkley shit. Like, are the Giants even actively participating in free agency? I don't know. Like every time I check my wrist, it's somebody texting me for an update. Hey, what's your take on this other awful thing? Hey, you just got hit in the dong by another wooden plank. How do you feel about that? Yeah, I feel horrible. Stop asking me. Yeah, I don't like any of it.
Luke Voigt's value. Luke Voigt, another one. You weren't going to use him. You let him go to shit. Why?
Yeah. When terrible stuff happens to your team, that's the other thing. Like, I'd love to open the floor to this. When terrible stuff happens to your teams, do you want people reaching out to you being like, oh, man, that news, huh? Yeesh. Why would I want to read that text? Give me 24 hours. I don't want to talk about it. Yeah, how does it make me feel? It makes me feel awful.
Dox them right now on the pod.
Check in to see proof of life. But like what do I have to say to you? Saquon Barkley to the Eagles, isn't he good? Yes. Gerrit Cole's elbow getting an MRI, is that bad? Sure is. Thanks for
looking back on these trades, like it's just hilarious. Cashman's best trade outside of Soto is the one in 2017 for Todd Frazier, Canely, and David Robertson. That's his best fucking trade. That is so sad. And that sums up how exactly this team misutilizes assets all the time and can't get what they need. Like, you can't even argue that like the Andrew Miller trade was in theory good. They got 4 players out of that deal. One was JP Fireeisen, who had 2 really good seasons in the major leagues as a reliever. One was Clint Frazier, who was highly sought after at that point. And the other was Justice Sheffield, who then the Yankees parlayed into a trade chip incorrectly, but still acquired that trade chip with the ability to get somebody like James Paxton and actually had the ability to get Manny Machado. But like, I'm not even going to call the Chapman for Gleyber deal good because they ended up ditching Adam Warren, Billy McKinney, not good. Rashad Crawford, don't know who he is. And Gleyber Torres, like, that's the least you should have gotten when you were taking advantage of a World Series contender whose lone missing piece was a closer, and you had the best closer in the league. So, like, no credit. No credit for this front office right now. No credit. Sorry. Trade for Lance Lynn, you can't use him. You can't figure it out. You trade prospects for Zach Britton, you pay him too much money, and he ends up sucking, and you're spending way too much money on a bullpen arm who could get injured at any day and ruin the life of the contract. Deal for Edwin Encarnacion, sure, good in theory, but got injured and then was irrelevant. The Mike Tauchman deal was a steal, and then you let Tauchman wither away into nothing. Rougned Odor, why'd you trade for him and take his money? Yeah. I guess they got Talkman for Peralta. I forgot. I got in a fight with people on the internet over that.
Here's huge news though. If you want to brighten your day. John Runyon Jr. is signing with the Giants. 3-year, $30 million deal. Were you aware of John Runyon Jr. at any point? Maybe
yes. Yeah. Where did he play last year?
He was a Packer.
Yes. I'm aware of him. Yeah.
Like I'm only tangentially.
I don't mean to kill the vibe because I know we're shitting on stuff right now, but I did know John Runyon Jr.
Yeah, I've heard that. I know the name, and I definitely know the name of his father, who was a senator. But at no point, as soon as this podcast is over, I'm closing the browser and I'm putting on Olivia Rodrigo, and I'm going to do John Runyon Jr. We got a backup guard for $10 million a year. New York Sports is back. This is the worst, honestly. Like, I know nobody wants to hear this, but also if you're here, you might actually want to hear this. Is there a worse fandom besides the like really bottom tier fandoms? Like Cleveland is worse. Detroit is worse. Buffalo is worse. There's only one team and they choke in the playoffs.
Buffalo is bad.
And the Sabres, come on. So those are the worst. No one in their right mind is ever going to be like New York is worse as a fandom than Buffalo, unless you count Buffalo in New York sports fandom, in which case we're the clear bottom of the barrel. But the Yankees have spent the last 15 years making the playoffs every year and never winning a World Series, which is a pretty easy way to get mocked by opposing fans because you spend a ton of money, you have a ton of stars, you get to the postseason annual. They haven't even reached a World Series since 2009. And people acting like that's supposed to be a point of pride. Getting laughed at every October, that's good. That's a good part of my fandom. Okay, great. And the Yankees are the best team in the fandom. By the way, the Rangers, same deal. Every single year they end up with somebody like Patrick Kane at the end of the year, and then it doesn't work out. They don't win. They don't win the title. They don't get to the Cup final, and everyone's like, "Well, you shouldn't have had some random 39-year-old dude on your hockey team." It's like that's true. Another star, a star glom team, a team that's just like stars, big name. Okay, let's get him. We lost in the second round of the playoffs. Oh well, let's get some more stars. That never works. The New York Giants, since winning their two Super Bowls, this is where we're talking about a progression over the last decade plus. The New York sports fandom was certainly not the worst fandom in the world in 2012. That's a fact. Yankees World Series, Giants Super Bowls, 2 of them. Again, pretty good. Since then, real bad. Now Saquan Barkley goes to the Eagles, which is that's the kind of thing that happens when your fandom is bad. And right now I'm describing the good New York teams.
Yeah.
The Knicks, the Mets, the Jets, the Islanders. We have double the teams and 1/8 of the championships. This is a horrible fandom since the dawn of the 2010s.
Yeah. Yankee fandom sucking, it couldn't have been more epitomized by what's happened in spring training. There have been fucking 2,000 spring training home runs. What's the one we're talking about? Yeah. Daniel Vogelback hitting a home run off Gerrit Cole. And people thought it was because Gerrit Cole was mad at Daniel Vogelback. And it was reporters asking Gerrit Cole how he felt about Daniel Vogelback emphatically flipping his bat and then walking around the bases to hit a home run on March 1st or February 29th or whatever it was. Again, 2,000 home runs this spring training, all by many more notable players, guys who you're going to see in the spring breakout game, non-roster invites who are making a push for an opening day roster spot. Isn't that a joyous storyline to follow, right? No, we're actually focusing on Daniel Vogelback, whose 2023 was so bad that Mets fans wrote him out of town, got the front office to be completely shaken up because of the personnel decision, and then somehow ends up in Toronto and turns on a fastball, just like, every major leaguer should do maybe 4% of the time. And that's the home run we're talking about. That's Yankees fandom. And that's how it goes.
Mm-hmm. That's very fun. Well, people will tell you it's the only reason we're talking about it is because Gerrit Cole got his panties twisted. We have prime concerns, right? I don't have time to relitigate Daniel Vogelback's home run. Sorry. But Gerrit Cole was asked a question and he responded to it, which is a normal thing to do. Can you imagine if somebody was like, Gerrit, do you care to comment on Daniel Vogelback's home run trad? And he was like, no, I don't have a comment. And everybody calling him amazing.
Like, oh, you can't talk about it?
It hurts him so much he won't even talk about it? What a child. But then he comments on it. You're like, he commented on it? What a child. Maybe his elbow hurt at that time. Maybe he was facing a twinge of discomfort, or maybe it's all precautionary. This is by far the lowest it's been for this fandom. And that includes Jason Dominguez coming up for a week and being the best hitter on the team and then succumbing to Tommy John surgery. That's the best part. Pitching prospects always break, right? But outfield prospects, you can hoard those for days. Those guys never get hurt. Oh, wait. pitcher type elbow surgery for our promising outfielder who's supposed to take this team to the next level. This is the worst. This is the absolute worst.
Yeah.
And we're lucky that we have titles in our past. But not that
very lucky. Very blessed.
We got a lot. We got 5.
Yeah.
We got 5. 5's a lot.
Yeah.
But some people have 0, and some people still think we should act like we have 27, which I wasn't alive. 1947 World Series doesn't personally affect my day-to-day. I don't read the Gerrit Cole news, come across the feed, and I go, oh, man, but at least we had Joe DiMaggio's heyday. Like, I live in 2024. I'm hoping to pay money to watch my team, the New York Yankees, play baseball, and there might not be a point to doing so. And you lose something that means a lot to you. But I'm going to watch the games. I'm going to watch Saquon Barkley's 3 games that he plays with the Philadelphia Eagles this year. I'm going to watch Saquon Barkley limp off awkwardly while Troy Aikman goes, I think the turf got him there. I want to be honest with you. I saw him come up. Has any player ever – we were at one of Saquon Barkley's worst games together about a month and a half ago. 3 months, I guess. Losing attaches itself to this man like a magnet. The Giants were inches away from salting away a victory against Green Bay when he ran 70 yards down the field untouched. It was either going to be a game-sealing touchdown or game-sealing field goal attempt, and he fell on his own and dropped the football, and it rolled away and was picked up by the Green Bay Packers. A game that is impossible to lose unless impossible because you have the lead. So even if a field goal gets blocked, the Packers will have to go the length of the field in 22 seconds or something. It's almost impossible to lose. Almost. Not quite, but almost. Until he fell over and gave the ball to the other team. And it's not the first time that he has done something like that. The number of sideline shots of him just being kind of like, stupid, I'm so stupid, like that we've endured for the last couple of years when he's healthy, which is a rarity. You can't pay that kind of money for Saquon Barkley if you're the Giants, but you can if you're the Eagles, I guess, because you got a lot going on. So you can weather the storm and absorb it and enjoy the good with the bad. But man, it's not fun. I don't like seeing that. I don't like seeing a lot of things. I haven't liked seeing something all day. UNC beat Duke on Saturday. That was great.
Yeah.
Not a New York team though. The only team I root for not based in New York, and they're probably the best one. So that's cool.
JMU kills me every year. Like, I don't know. It's whatever. It's the high profile. Like the Astros kill me because you know why? Because when the Astros suck in 3 years, when everybody's gone, and when it's hard for them to rebuild, no one's gonna give a fuck. No one's gonna be laughing at the Astros for sucking. Because why? Because they were irrelevant before they got big. They got big. They made enemies of what? Yeah, I guess the whole league at one point because of the cheating scandal, but really with like a handful. It was Yankees, it was Dodgers, and then it was like, it wasn't even the teams in their division because their division has been such dog shit for their entire reign that it hasn't mattered. But like, no one's going to be sitting laughing at the Astros because now they suck all of a sudden and they don't have a core anymore and they're not making the playoffs. And like, this is where it hurts the most is because you're in the news all the time as a New York team. You have a target on your back because you won the most. But like, again, it's either argument works for the haters. It's, oh, you have 27 championships, shut up. Or it's, oh, you won those championships and TV wasn't even invented yet, idiot. So they don't even matter. And it's like, all right, so like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? Yeah. But I'm here complaining, so this is what I'm going to do.
That's what we're going to do. Sorry if everybody who wanted this podcast to be therapy. I mean, there's nothing good. It's like when horrible things happen in your life and you go to therapy. Your therapist isn't going to be like, that sounds pretty good, actually. You're going to be like, wow, you sound like you're in a bad spot.
Wow. You only need one appointment, actually. So
yeah. We prescribe you drugs. You sound like you're doing not well. And again, we were talking about this earlier. The Red Sox didn't even try this year. Didn't even try. Their fans are talking about boycotting. They didn't even try. Didn't attempt to get better. They're probably better than the Yankees are as currently constructed without Gerrit Cole and with a banged up Aaron Judge.
Without Gerrit Cole and a banged up Aaron Judge, it's the same team.
Yeah, they don't want to win. They're not trying to win baseball games, and they're going to accidentally probably have a similar record to the New York Yankees. And those fans are still never going to be satisfied. They'll tell you that they're the worst fandom outside of Buffalo and Detroit. Nobody has it worse than Boston. conference finals every year in the winter sports, 6 Super Bowls in the last 20 years, 4 World Series in the last 20 years. Yeah, but we also lost some, so nobody has it worse than Boston. Our owners won't sign Jordan Montgomery, but also maybe will. Nobody has it worse than Boston. And again, they basically took the offseason off. They smart offseason. All the fans are like clamoring for big moves, and the Red Sox owners are like, we don't have to do anything. We're still going to be better than the Yankees. They'll fall apart. You'll see. And Red Sox fans are like, we don't believe you. They got one. So, MRI. Oh, wait, mid-spring banged up. Okay, never mind. You guys were right. You guys were fine. We're good. We're good. Boston fan. And then when they, go 84-78 this year, they'll complain about how they have the worst fate in sports as well. Hopefully the Yankees do more than just tread water, because we're pretty good at treading water. I think we can get to the 80s in wins. We can get we can look at the low 90s. Not going to get there. We can look at it. There might be a point in July when you think you could get to the low 90s if Gerrit Cole's out, but you won't. With Cole, with healthy Cole, it's a championship contender. Without Cole, it's the Giants letting Saquon Barkley go to the Eagles because there's no reason to pay a running back because you're that far away.
It wasn't even a big contract.
I mean, what are the Giants? How close are the Giants?
It's $12 million a year.
Not very close. Kayvon Thibodeau posted the video of Wesley Snipes raising a gun and crying. So does that get you suspended? Like, it's like funny, but can you do that? I don't know.
I don't think you can. So he'll be released, and that'll be part of the Giants offseason. And then, here we go.
Yeah. Well, sports aren't good. You guys like chocolate? See you back here on Thursday. We actually have a big one this week. Perfect timing, because only one person so far has said that the Cole MRI is being viewed as precautionary, and we're going to talk to him tomorrow. Andy Martino. Will be on this YouTube channel. It will not be a live stream. Unfortunately, sorry, Fernando and Roberto. You can send us your questions.
Yeah.
But we know it will not be a live stream. It will be up on the channel tomorrow. So I hope everybody enjoys that. We hope to maybe break some news there, talking about his new book about Brian Cashman. Of course, we'll go all in on the Cashman process, but we also will try to get to the bottom of Cole, get to the bottom of Soto and the Mets, which hilarious. That was like last week. We're all laughing about that. And now it's, I don't know.
Getting to the bottom.
Now I don't care. Now I hope the Mets sign Soto in May. I don't want to wait till next year. Who gives a shit? But we'll talk to Andy Martino, try to get to the bottom of all this stuff. Definitely someone who I want to speak to right now, specifically. Good timing. I'm Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Weinrib. But today, maybe don't. Maybe just do not find me there today. Definitely don't ask me a nice question, like a kind question, because I'm probably not going to. Even a kind gesture, I'm probably not going to handle very well.
No.
But a normal day, please reach out. Thomas Carannante, where can the people find you?
I'm at Tommy's_takes. We are both at the official Yanks Go Yard Twitter account. That's Yanks Go Yard FS. Adam will have no choice but to listen to your messages there. Head on over to yanksgoyard.com. All the depressing, sad, doomsday, hateful content you'll be able to find about the Yankees until any of this is smoothed over, because we are sufficiently angry, as is the rest of the fan base, and we sympathize with that. So we'll be hooking you up with every update, every bit of news, every spring training development for the foreseeable future. Thank you guys for all the support. Don't forget about DraftKings. That code is YanksGoYard if you want to sign up and get that second chance bet up to $1,000. Pretty sick. And until then, we'll talk to you. I'm actually going on vacation, guys, so I won't see you until next Thursday. How do you feel about that? You going to yell at me? You going to yell at us for being late or for not having a podcast? You can't. You can't this time. So we'll have a special ep for you with a special guest, and then after that, we'll figure it out. We'll talk to you this week for sure.
We will. It's true. Thanks for sticking it out. Thomas, Lucy is doing something weird on the couch.
Yeah, she's going crazy.
Yeah, as soon as she goes over, check on the dog. She's rolling over. Honestly, at what is it, 3:05 or 3:05 to 3:35? I'm going to do exactly what Thomas's dog just did. I'm going to sit on a couch, and roll around, and scratch my back, and maybe squeal a little bit, and then we'll see you later this week for a podcast where we'll know the results of Gerrit Cole's MRI. Isn't that great? Isn't that great?
So good.
We'll catch up with you later. Thanks for joining us today. As always, thanks, everybody. And if you're here on the audio feed, appreciate you joining us as well. Hit that subscribe button if you're here for the first time. Leave us a podcast review if you're for the first time, long time. You like what you hear, like what you see. We'd love to see you back. Man, it'd be good to have a positive therapy session. Would be great, but there are just no silver linings right now. There just are not. So we'll see you later in the week. Thanks for joining us, everybody.